I never thought I'd be the guy telling this kind of story. You know, the one where you find out your wife is cheating on you. My name is Brian, and the woman I thought I knew for the last decade turned out to be someone completely different. I guess it all started to unravel when Emily started spending more and more late nights at work. At first, I thought nothing of it. She had recently been promoted to a managerial position at a marketing firm, and I wanted to support her. Emily had always been ambitious. She was the type of woman who'd shake the hands of CEOs and charm everyone in the room. I admired that about her, but as her ambition grew, so did my suspicions. Little things began to change. She'd come home smelling like a different perfume than the one I knew she wore, sweet and floral. I'd ask her about it and she'd brush it off, saying it was just a new colleague's gift. I remember thinking how ridiculous it sounded, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. One night after a long day at my own job, I was in the living room scrolling through my phone when I noticed a message pop up on Emily's phone. It was from a guy named Mark, someone I had never heard of. The message read, "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." I froze, my heart racing. I had always trusted her, but now my stomach twisted in knots. I decided to confront her. I was going to play it cool, act like I had just stumbled across the message. I didn't want to make any accusations without proof, even though my gut was screaming at me. When she came home that night, I was ready. I greeted her with a smile, but my insides were churning. "Hey, Em, you got a text from some guy named Mark earlier. Who's he?" Her face went pale. For a moment, I thought she might just come clean, but instead she laughed, a nervous, edgy laugh. "Oh, don't be ridiculous, Brian. It's just a work friend. You know how some of them can be." She waved her hand dismissively, and I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to concoct a believable lie. It didn't stop there. I pressed her a bit more, and that's when I got the most infuriating response. She said, "You're just being paranoid. I mean, would you even know what to do without me? You've always needed me to hold everything together." Those words stung more than I expected. It was like she had taken a knife and twisted it just for good measure. As the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I started to do some digging. I couldn't help myself. I checked her social media and saw pictures. She was out with Mark more frequently than she claimed. I found out they had been seeing each other for months. It was all there, black and white, and it crushed me. I felt like my world was collapsing. I had never been the type to let anger take control, but this time was different. I couldn't just sit back and let this happen. I had to confront her, but I wanted it to be on my terms. I knew she would deflect, blame me, and I'd need to be ready for the emotional roller coaster she was going to take me on. What would I say? How would I react? All these questions swirled in my mind as I plotted the confrontation. I decided I would bring it up over dinner, something casual in a familiar setting, but my heart was pounding just thinking about it. I just needed to know the truth. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a storm that would change everything. The pain, the betrayal, and the anger were only the beginning of what would become a long journey towards healing, or perhaps revenge. I wasn't sure yet, but one thing was certain. I was ready to fight for my dignity and reclaim my life. Dinner that night was a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. I tried to keep the atmosphere light, but each laugh from Emily felt like it was cutting deeper. She talked about her day, how her team at work had nailed a presentation, and I nodded along, pretending to care. Meanwhile, my mind was racing, weighing the options of how to drop the bombshell. After dinner, I offered to clean up the dishes, a small gesture that I hoped would allow us to transition into the conversation I dreaded. As I scrubbed the plates, I could feel her eyes, a curious expression on her face. I finally put down the sponge and turned to face her. "Emily, can we talk?" Her expression shifted slightly. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath. "I came across something the other day, something that's been bothering me." I paused, searching her eyes for a hint of guilt, but all I found was that defensive wall she'd built up. "What is it?" she asked, her voice steady but with an edge that told me she was preparing for the worst. "It's about a guy named Mark." "You know, the one who texted you," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "What's the deal with him?" For a moment, a flicker of panic crossed her face. Then, just like that, she was back in control. Brian, come on, seriously. You're really going to bring this up? It's nothing, just a colleague. I was ready for that response. Emily, it's not nothing. You told me you were working late, but I see you're out with him. I found pictures online that show you two together. This isn't just a work friend. She shifted uncomfortably, her bravado faltering. You know how the office parties can get. It's all harmless fun, Brian. You're being dramatic. I felt my anger rising. Harmless fun? Is that why you've been sneaking around? I deserve the truth, Emily. Are you cheating on me? That's when everything unraveled. Her expression hardened and she took a step closer, invading my space. You don't get to talk to me like that, she snapped. You've never understood my life. This is all because you can't handle my success. You think I need to explain myself to you? I recoiled at her accusation, stunned by how quickly she turned it back on me. This isn't about your success. It's about loyalty and trust, Emily. You've betrayed that. Betrayed? You're just a typical insecure husband who can't handle a strong woman. I don't owe you anything. Her words hit me like punches. I tried not to let them affect me, but I could feel my confidence draining. So what? You're just going to deny it? Lie to my face? I saw the messages, Emily. I saw everything. In that moment she hesitated. I watched her, searching for any sign of remorse, but all I found was her indignation. You're embarrassing yourself, Brian. You think you can confront me like this and throw accusations around. You don't know what's really going on. It was as if she was still trying to manipulate the narrative. She had the audacity to make me feel like the villain in this situation. What's going on, Emily? Just tell me the truth for once. I could hear my voice rising, trembling with frustration. She straightened her posture, crossing her arms defiantly. Fine, let's say I am. What will you do about it? You're so scared of losing me that you'd rather play the blame game than face the truth. My heart sank. The thought that I might lose her drove me to desperation. I should have never let you manipulate me like this. I deserve better. I felt like a fool, and she was enjoying every moment of it. You didn't even believe in yourself before I came along. She shot back. I made you who you are. You think you're just going to walk away because you're feeling hurt. Good luck finding someone who will put up with your mediocre life. The coldness in her voice pierced through me. It was a mix of anger and despair, and suddenly I was overcome by a wave of emotion. I had tried to hold it together, but I felt the tears prick my eyes. As I blinked them back, I realized that I was done. I was tired of fighting for someone who clearly didn't value our relationship. Maybe I should walk away, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Maybe you're right. Maybe I do deserve better. For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. You wouldn't dare, she said, her bravado cracking. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Watch me. I turned away from her, feeling a flicker of something new, determination. I had to figure out how to reclaim my life, and I wouldn't let Emily's betrayal define me. I was ready to take the next steps, even if it meant confronting the hardest truths of all. After the confrontation with Emily, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, staring down into an abyss of heartbreak and uncertainty. Walking away from that fight felt surprisingly empowering, but the reality of what I had to face began to set in. I took a few nights to gather my thoughts, and during that time I started to think more clearly about my future. I spent my days at work trying to focus, but it was nearly impossible. My colleagues noticed something was off. I was quieter, more withdrawn. I could feel them casting glances my way, whispering behind my back. I hated that I was the topic of conversation, but I couldn't find the energy to care. My thoughts were consumed by the betrayal, the lies, and how I had once believed in our marriage. I decided to dig deeper into what Emily had been doing. I started to follow her on social media more closely. The pictures she posted were carefully curated, showing her having a great time at parties, laughing with friends, and looking happy. But among the smiles, I noticed Mark lurking in the background of several photos. They looked cozy together, and it made my stomach churn. At that moment, I realized I couldn't let her continue to toy with my emotions. I reached out to a couple of friends, trying to find some semblance of support. They were shocked to hear what had been going on, but I didn't want pity. I just needed someone who could help me sort through my feelings and plot a course of action. A friend named Matt, who had gone through a messy divorce a couple of years back, was particularly helpful. He listened intently, offering advice and support as I told him my story. "Dude, you need to take control of your life," he said. "Don't let her walk all over you. You're worth more than that. You have to think about what you want." I appreciated his straightforwardness. After days of self-doubt, I began to feel a flicker of resolve. I realized that I didn't just want to walk away. I wanted to show Emily that I could thrive without her. I decided it was time to make some significant changes. I had been working at a decent job in finance, but I always had dreams of starting my own business. So I pulled the trigger. I started reaching out to contacts, gathering information, and doing research. I spent late nights drafting a business plan, pouring everything I had into the idea. It was exhilarating to focus on something positive, something that was mine. I wanted to build something that would not only pull me out of this mess, but also prove to myself that I could succeed without Emily's influence. As I dove into this new venture, I began to gain traction. I secured a small investment from an old friend who believed in my potential, and soon I was off the ground. It felt good to be in control again, to be the architect of my own future. Every time I made progress, I felt a little more liberated from Emily's hold over me. But I wasn't done with her yet. I needed to make my point clear, and I had a plan forming in my mind, a plan that involved more than just moving on. I wanted revenge, not in a vindictive way, but in a way that showed her the consequences of her actions. I began to research the company Mark worked for, the very company that Emily had been so eager to impress. That's when it hit me. I could buy the company. It was a bold move, one that would take time and resources, but I was determined. I wanted her to see that I could build something from the ground up, something that would give me leverage over her. I wanted to ensure that when she saw me thriving, she would remember how she had underestimated me. As I started to formulate my plans, I felt a surge of confidence. I wanted to be the man who turned betrayal into triumph. Little did I know, this journey would lead me down a path I never anticipated, one filled with unexpected twists and an emotional roller coaster that would change everything I thought I knew about myself. With every small success, I felt the weight of Emily's manipulation lift. I could see a future where I was not just surviving but thriving. I was ready to put my plan into motion, driven by a desire not only for personal growth, but also for a chance to confront Emily on my own terms. It was time to show her that I was capable of greatness without her, and I couldn't wait for the day she'd realize it. The months flew by faster than I could have imagined. I poured myself into my new business venture. And the more I worked, the clearer my vision became. I was relentless, putting in long hours and sacrificing sleep, but it felt good. I was finally on a path that excited me, one that was all my own. The exhilaration of building something from scratch had become my lifeblood, and it helped to ease the pain of Emily's betrayal. In parallel, I kept an eye on Emily and Mark. I knew it wasn't the healthiest thing to do, but a part of me wanted to see how far they would take their relationship. I watched as she posted pictures of them at upscale restaurants and exotic vacations, seemingly living a glamorous life. Her posts were curated to perfection, portraying a facade that everything was fantastic, but I knew the truth. I had seen behind the curtain, and it had left a bitter taste in my mouth. Yet instead of bitterness, I chose to channel my energy into my business. I started making connections in the industry, attending networking events, and pitching my ideas to potential investors. Slowly but surely, I started gaining traction. People were starting to notice my work, and before long, I secured a major deal that opened the floodgates. The adrenaline rush of closing my first significant contract was intoxicating. I could hardly believe it. With newfound momentum, I decided to take the next step. I began the process of researching the company Mark worked for, which was a mid-sized tech firm that specialized in creative marketing solutions. The more I learned about their operations, the more I saw an opportunity. I realized they were struggling to keep up with larger competitors and had just lost a significant client due to poor performance. The thought of acquiring the company was exhilarating. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction imagining Emily's reaction when she saw my name on the acquisition documents. I wanted to show her that, while she had thrown away our marriage, I was capable of thriving and succeeding without her. I reached out to a few investment banks and began the process of exploring acquisition options. It was a challenging endeavor. I had to navigate through financial statements, legal contracts, and negotiations that made my head spin, but I embraced the challenge. I thrived on proving to myself that I could do this. After several months of hard work and negotiations, I finally received the green light. The company was up for sale and they were willing to entertain my offer. My heart raced as I began finalizing the details. I wanted to ensure that I had everything aligned before I made the final move. It felt surreal that I was about to make such a significant decision, but I was ready. The day I officially acquired the company marked a major turning point. It was a surreal experience, holding the paperwork that made it all official. I had done it. I had built something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal, but I knew that this victory was not just for myself. It was a way to reclaim my dignity and stand tall in the face of Emily's lies. Armed with this sense of accomplishment, I invited a few friends to celebrate the milestone. Matt was among them, and he could hardly contain his excitement. "Brian, this is incredible. You've turned your life around so fast. You've got to show Emily what you've built." I smiled, feeling a wave of confidence wash over me. "Oh, I plan to. She thinks she can have whatever she wants without consequences. I'm going to show her." Otherwise, with my friends by my side, we toasted to new beginnings and the strength I had found within myself. But as the night wore on, I knew I had to take the next step. I needed to confront Emily. I felt ready, not out of rage or vengeance, but to demonstrate my growth and assert my independence. I wanted to reclaim my narrative. Over the next few days, I meticulously planned how I would break the news to her. I didn't want to rush into it emotionally. I wanted to ensure that I delivered my message clearly and confidently. I thought about how I would frame the conversation. I didn't need to belittle her. I simply wanted to show her that I had moved on and discovered my own worth. I scheduled a meeting with Emily at a local cafe, a place we used to frequent during our happier times. I figured it would have a nostalgic feel, but I was determined to keep the conversation focused. I wanted her to see the clear difference between the man she had belittled and the man I had become. The day arrived, and as I walked into the cafe, I felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. I spotted Emily at a table, looking as poised as ever, her hair perfectly styled and her outfit sharp. She glanced up as I approached, her expression betraying a hint of surprise. "Brian, it's been a while," she said, a tight smile on her lips. "Yeah, it has," I replied, taking a seat across from her. "I wanted to talk about us, about everything that's happened." As we settled in, I could see the defensive walls rising around her, but I was ready. I wasn't going to let her manipulate this conversation. I wanted her to know that I had moved forward and I was about to show her just how far I had come. As I sat across from Emily, the weight of the moment felt almost surreal. I could sense the tension in the air as she fiddled with her coffee cup, her eyes darting around the cafe as if searching for an exit. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This wasn't just about confronting her, it was about taking back my power. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Emily," I started, keeping my tone calm. "And even about us, about what happened and where I'm headed now." She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms defensively. "I hope this isn't about what you think you saw. I told you it was nothing, just work." "No, it's not about that," I replied, trying to keep my frustration at bay. "I've accepted what happened between us, but I also want you to know that I've moved on. I've been working on building my own business and—" I paused, letting the moment hang in the air for dramatic effect. "I just acquired the company Mark works for." Emily's expression shifted, a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Wait, what? You're kidding, right?" Her voice was raised, and I could see the facade of confidence cracking. "I'm not kidding," I said, meeting her gaze directly. "I've worked hard to make this happen. It's not just a company, it's my future, and it proves that I can stand on my own 2 feet." Her eyes narrowed, and I could see the gears turning in her head. "So, this is your big comeback? Buying a company, what does that even mean for us?" "It means nothing for us, Emily," I said firmly. "You made your choices, and I'm not here to rekindle what we had. I wanted you to know because I think you need to see how wrong you were about me. You thought I wouldn't be able to make it without you, and look at me now." The anger bubbled up inside her. "You think this is about you proving something. You think I care about your business. I never said you couldn't succeed." I could feel my patience wearing thin. "You know that's not true. You belittled my dreams. You made me feel like I was nothing without you. But here I am thriving. You didn't believe in me, and I needed to show you that I can do this on my own." Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but I reminded myself of the pain she had caused. "I just wanted to make sure you understand that this isn't a competition," I continued, softening my tone slightly. "But it's a reminder that I'm not the man you thought I was. I won't be your punchy bag anymore." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And what about us? Is this it? Are you really just going to throw everything away? We had something special." I shook my head. "What we had is gone, Emily. You made that choice when you decided to cheat. I can't go back to being the person who accepted your lies. I'm moving forward, and I need to do that without you." The silence that followed was heavy. I could see the realization dawning on her, the weight of my words sinking in. I had taken control of my life and my narrative, and for the first time I felt free. As she sat there processing everything, I took the opportunity to lay out my plans. "I'm not just stopping at acquiring the company. I'm going to make it successful. I'm going to build a team, innovate, and take it to heights it's never seen before. And when you see my name in the headlines, I want you to remember this moment." Emily opened her mouth to respond, but I raised my hand to stop her. "I don't need your pity, and I certainly do need you to validate my success. I'm doing this for me and for anyone who ever felt like they wouldn't make it without someone else's support." When I stood up to leave, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, empowerment, and even a touch of sadness for the relationship we once had. But I knew this was the right step, the necessary step. I had to put my past behind me to fully embrace my future. As I walked away, I glanced back one last time. Emily was sitting there, stunned, staring into her coffee cup, probably reflecting on the choices she'd made. I hoped she could take this moment to reflect on what she had lost. But in that instant, I realized I was ready to face whatever came next, unburdened by the past. I had reclaimed my dignity, and I was ready to face the world with a renewed sense of purpose. I set out to build my business, to prove to everyone, including myself, that I could thrive on my own. I would no longer be defined by Emily's betrayal. I would be defined by my resilience and my drive to succeed. The next chapter of my life was just beginning, and I had no intention of looking back. I wasn't just moving on. I was stepping into a brand new version of myself, ready to conquer whatever challenges lay ahead. I was ready to show everyone, most importantly myself, what I was truly capable of. The weeks that followed my confrontation with Emily were transformative. I threw myself into my business with an intensity I never knew I had. The acquisition was a game changer, and soon I was surrounded by a small but passionate team eager to breathe new life into the company. I felt invigorated, energized by the challenges ahead, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was in control of my destiny. The first few months were a whirlwind. I worked late nights and early mornings, collaborating with my team to lay the groundwork for our new vision. We held brainstorming sessions, restructured the company's approach, and nurtured a creative culture that encouraged innovation. Watching the team rally around a common goal was exhilarating. I finally felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. As I made progress, the success began to ripple. We secured new clients, received positive feedback on our campaigns, and even started generating buzz in the industry. I could feel the momentum building, and I reveled in the thrill of accomplishment. I was doing it. I was building a brand and a legacy from scratch. During this time, I made a conscious effort to stay away from Emily and Mark. I knew she would try to reach out eventually, but I was determined to focus on my own life. I'd become a man who had turned pain into purpose, and I had no intention of letting her back into my headspace. One afternoon, as I was reviewing some quarterly reports in my office, I received an unexpected call from a journalist who wanted to feature my journey in a prominent business magazine. I was stunned, but excited. This was the type of recognition I had always dreamed of, a chance to share my story of resilience and growth. The interview went incredibly well. I spoke candidly about my experiences, touching on the challenges I faced, including the heartbreak of my marriage and how it fueled my ambition. I wanted to inspire others who might be feeling lost or trapped in their own lives. I was finally sharing my truth, and it felt liberating. A few days after the article was published, I was flooded with messages from colleagues, friends, and even some former acquaintances. Everyone was congratulating me on the feature, and I could sense the shift in how people viewed me. I was no longer just Brian, the guy who stood in his wife's shadow. I was the man who took charge of his life and turned it around. Later that week, as I walked into a networking event, I noticed a familiar face across the room: Emily. She was talking animatedly with a group of people, but the instant our eyes met, I felt a jolt of recognition. It was as if time had stopped for a moment. She looked different, confident, but there was a vulnerability in her expression that I hadn't seen before. I took a deep breath and decided to approach her. I wanted to show her that I was indeed thriving. As I walked towards her, I felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. I wasn't going to let her past manipulation affect me anymore. "Brian," Emily exclaimed, her smile fading as she registered my presence. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, I figured it was time to expand my network," I replied, keeping my tone light. "How have you been?" Her eyes darted away, and I could sense that she was struggling to find the right words. "I've been good. I saw your article. You're doing really well." "Thanks," I said, knowing full well that my success was something she had never believed I could achieve. "It's been a lot of hard work, but it's paying off." "I'm happy for you," she replied, though I could hear the underlying tension in her voice. "I've been trying to figure things out on my end, too." I raised my eyebrows, surprised. "Really? How that going?" She hesitated before speaking, glancing nervously at the group of friends she had been talking to. "I realized that I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't appreciate what I had, and I took you for granted. I'm sorry for how things ended." Her words hung in the air, and for a brief moment I felt the weight of our shared past, but I quickly reminded myself of the journey I had taken. "I appreciate your apology, Emily. It means a lot, but I've moved on. I've learned so much about myself, and I'm excited about where I'm headed." She nodded, her expression shifting from defensive to contemplative. "I can see that. You seem different, stronger." "I am," I said, feeling a sense of pride swell within me. "And I'm not going to let anyone dim my light again." As we parted ways, I felt an overwhelming sense of closure wash over me. Emily had been a significant part of my life, but now she was just a chapter in my story, not the whole book. I had reclaimed my narrative, and it was exhilarating. From that day forward, I continued to push my business forward, achieving milestones I had once thought were out of reach. Along the way, I surrounded myself with supportive friends and colleagues who believed in me. I had transformed from a man who felt inadequate into an empowered leader, driven by a desire to create and innovate. Looking back at my experiences, I recognized that betrayal can either break you or make you stronger. I chose the latter. I learned that true strength comes from within, and that resilience can turn heartbreak into brilliance. And as I watched my business grow, I knew one thing for certain. I had finally found my worth, and I was ready to take on the world on my own terms.